I always thought I'd be an artist. Growing up in a small town in America, I spent most of my childhood with a paintbrush in one hand and a sketchbook in the other. I vividly remember the smell of turpentine and the feel of canvas stretching beneath my fingers. My bedroom walls were covered in my creations, bright and bold, bursting with the dreams I had for my future. But life has a way of veering off course, doesn't it? Fast forward to my 30s, and here I was, Jack Thompson, working a dead-end job in a warehouse, surrounded by boxes and machinery instead of canvases and colors. Every morning, I donned my faded blue uniform, the same one I'd worn for 3 years, and trudged to work, knowing that I was going to spend my day lifting heavy objects and dealing with irritable customers. It was a far cry from the life I had imagined, and the weight of that realization sat heavily on my shoulders. My father's health began to decline around the same time I hit my 30s. He'd always been my rock, the one who encouraged my artistic ambitions, but now he was struggling with heart issues. The hospital visits became frequent, and soon enough, I found myself as the primary caregiver. Balancing work and caring for my dad left me exhausted, both physically and mentally. I felt trapped, as if I was stuck in a never-ending cycle of obligation and unfulfilled dreams. The more I poured myself into my father's care, the further I drifted from my own aspirations. My sketchbook lay untouched, gathering dust on the shelf. I tried to convince myself that it was just a temporary setback, that I would eventually get back to painting. But deep down, I knew I was afraid that the spark I once had was gone forever. One night, after a particularly long day at the hospital, I stumbled into my room and spotted that old sketchbook. I dusted it off, feeling a wave of nostalgia wash over me as I flipped through its pages. I was met with a younger version of myself, full of life and dreams. The sketches of whimsical landscapes and abstract figures brought a smile to my face, reminding me of the joy that art had once brought me. That night, something shifted in me. I decided to pick up a brush again. I didn't care about being perfect. I just needed to express what I was feeling. So, I set up a makeshift workspace in my cramped bedroom and started painting. The colors flowed from my brush, each stroke liberating me a little more from the weight I felt. I was still working at the warehouse, but I made it a point to carve out time for my art every evening. The more I painted, the more I remembered who I was. I created vibrant pieces that captured the turmoil I felt inside, pieces that reflected both my love for my father and the struggle to reclaim my own identity. But, of course, it wasn't easy. My friends and family didn't understand my sudden urge to pursue art again. "Jack, you can't waste your time on that. You have responsibilities now." It stung, but I tried to brush it off. I was determined to find a way to balance my responsibilities and my passion. They said, their voices filled with concern. One day, while I was painting at the park, I met an elderly man named Walter. He was sitting on a bench, watching me with keen interest. After a while, he approached me and struck up a conversation. Walter was a retired artist, and he could see the fire in my eyes that I thought had long extinguished. He offered me encouragement, sharing stories of his own struggles and triumphs in the art world. "Every artist goes through phases of doubt," he told me. "It's a part of the process. You just have to keep creating, even when it feels like no one believes in you. That's what makes you an artist." His words resonated with me, igniting a spark of hope. I began to visit him regularly, sharing my work and receiving invaluable advice. With Walter's guidance, I decided to enter a local art show. It felt like a huge risk, but I was ready to put my work out there. I spent weeks preparing, pouring my heart into every piece, blending colors and textures that spoke to my experiences. The night of the show, I stood nervously in front of my work, heart racing as visitors began to arrive. As people walked around, I could see their reactions. Some paused to admire my pieces, while others chatted with enthusiasm. It was terrifying yet exhilarating. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of pride. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. A local art critic approached me, scrutinizing my work. I held my breath, fearing the worst. "You have a unique voice," he said after a long pause. "Your art tells a story, one of struggle, resilience, and hope." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart swelled with gratitude and relief. The validation I received that night wasn't just about my art. It was a reminder that I was still capable of pursuing my dreams. In the weeks that followed, I sold a few pieces and even gained some local recognition. More importantly, I found my voice again, both as an artist and as a son. I learned to balance my responsibilities without sacrificing my passion. I realized that caring for my father and pursuing my dreams were not mutually exclusive. I could be both an artist and a caregiver. As I sat with my dad one evening, sharing my journey with him, I saw a flicker of pride in his eyes. "I always knew you had it in you, Jack," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "You just needed to find your way back." In that moment, I understood the true meaning of success. It wasn't just about achieving my dreams. It was about embracing the journey, the struggles, and the triumphs along the way. Life may have taken unexpected turns, but it had led me back to the canvas, back to myself, and for that, I was forever grateful.